This is beginning to be frightful of the things that I'm seeing that basically hold the same characteristics towards what went on in the 1800s, right before the Civil War broke out. In other words, as the old saying goes, crap rolls downhill. And in and of and during the Civil War, it started in the White House, and it went from the White House to the church house, to the church house, to the schoolhouse, to the schoolhouse, all the way down to the outhouse, pertaining to people not getting along, people having disagreements, and people not willing to open their eyes and see the truth. So the things that you're fixing to see pertaining to the White House and pertaining to what is occurring on the count of an illegitimate, now called president, has escalated into a wide-scale circus. So if you don't mind, please pay very close attention to this particular episode.
Garage today, a car plunging to the ground. At least 2 people killed. 4 flight attendants for American Airlines under arrest tonight. What they're accused of doing while on the job. And the FDA now calling for a new warning tonight for breast implants. The new concern.
I knew that was going to come up.
News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It's great to have you with us here at a very busy Wednesday night, and we begin tonight with the drama playing out on the Hill. The confrontation that came just one day after what may have been the most damaging testimony yet against President Trump. Tonight, even a leading Republican senator now saying the picture coming out is not a good one. And just today, the Pentagon official overseeing Ukraine policy, Laura Cooper, there arriving to testify, but was stopped before she could even start when several House Republicans showed up, stormed the room, and made their demands. ABC's Mary Bruce with the images tonight. Another day of drama on the Hill.
Listen up!
One day after the most explosive testimony yet, House Republicans tried to grind the impeachment inquiry to a halt.
We're going to go and see if we can get inside.
The president's allies on the Hill forcing their way into the secure room in the basement of the Capitol, where lawmakers of both parties were trying to question a top Pentagon official for Ukraine and Russia.
By golly, if they're going to do it in public. Don't hide it from the American people.
President Trump has been urging Republicans to get tougher. Many of the members protesting today met with him last night. Today's hearing delayed nearly 5 hours.
This is an effort to please the president, to try to shut down the process. It's a stunt.
It comes 24 hours after the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, Bill Taylor, delivered stunning testimony. Taylor outlining what the president and his allies have been denying, a quid pro quo campaign. Describing in detail how Trump himself withheld nearly $400 million in foreign aid to pressure Ukraine to investigate his political rivals, including Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Taylor testified that withholding that aid put lives at risk, describing how on one trip to the Ukrainian border, quote, "I could see the armed and hostile Russian-led forces." He says he knew more Ukrainians would undoubtedly die without the U.S. assistance.
Bill Taylor gave a devastating opening statement yesterday. They're freaked out. They're trying to stop this investigation.
Even some in the president's own party agree the testimony was potentially damaging. The number 2 Republican in the Senate, John Thune, saying the picture coming out based on the reporting we've seen is not a good one. But the president today attacked Taylor on Twitter, calling him a never-Trumper, adding it would be really great if the people within the Trump administration could stop hiring never-Trumpers. Taylor is a career diplomat who served as George W. Bush's ambassador to Ukraine. He returned there in May at the personal request of the president's own Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo.
You know, it was kind of emotionally raw yesterday whenever the chief and commander of the United States of the free world started bringing out gestures that this was a lynching, that this was a political lynching. Just to use the word lynching is in and of itself very, very offensive to a lot of people here in America due to our dark history that we have had back years ago. And just one thing leading into another, and it really bothers me. It gives me a sickening feeling because I'm thinking to myself, yeah, these are the very same characteristics that happened right before the disturbance in the country pertaining to a civil war that began up in the Hill, began at the White House, that escalated from the White House to all the courthouses, to the church houses, to the schoolhouses, all the way down to the outhouses, that basically turned this country totally upside down. And that's what I'm afraid of, that the bloodshed is liable to repeat itself if we don't pay closer attention towards what is happening here, towards us turning against each other. Now, if the president has done something wrong, in which I personally believe that he has, then he needs to be reprimanded in the right proper form, and the rest of the party needs to either shut up. No news is good news. If you can't say nothing good, don't say nothing good. If you can't say nothing good, don't say nothing at all. They either need to shut up and let the system do what the system is supposed to do if the president has committed a wrongdoing, in which the way that it looks from all testimonies, he has, in fact, went over that red line by holding precious commodities that should have been given to the people over in the Ukraine area. That was one of our allies. You don't treat your allies like they're some sort of a bargaining chip. They're either in partnerships with you or they're not in partnerships with you. And I'm sure somewhere down the line, give or take, there's always a pro and there's always a con. And eventually, whatever that we're doing for the Ukrainians will come back in a rewarding fashion, in a rewarding form, probably tenfold, compared to what we're doing for them. And ordinarily, that's the way that it's supposed to work. Whenever you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. One hand helps shake the other. It's a partnership. But what's going on right now is on the level of civil, social unrest that deeply, deeply disturbs me, because this could actually be the beginning phases of something that would entangle into a catastrophe like we have never ever dreamed of before. Simply because, listen to me, simply because there was too many people that took their eye off the ball. There was too many people that put this thing on cruise control. There was too many people that put the system on automatic pilot. And now they realize that, hey, it's got down now to where the rubber meets the road. Well, yeah, at $23 trillion, 2.3 million incarcerated state, local, and federal prisoners that somebody's having to clothe, feed, protect, keep incarcerated, because you can't just let them out. Yes, we are in a crisis like we have probably never seen before here in America. And once more, I'll say this and I'll say it again before it's over with. The American people had their priorities in the wrong places. I do give Trump 2 thumbs up towards acknowledging that our veterans was being neglected and taken advantage of, and he has managed to turn that around to the degree that now we are starting to do what we should have done all along, towards taking care of those who took care of us. That was the whole primary purpose for David and I wanting to open up the St. Del's Recovery Shelter out here, was in honor of our military pertaining to what that they have done. Not only our military, but also educating the general public towards what kind of sacrifices that the families of the military have to go through because of all these different emotional, psychological, post-traumatic stress syndrome scenarios that goes on in a lot of these soldiers' lives whenever they come back, that no one was willing to address. I repeat, that no one was willing to address in this particular area other than sitting back and watching a family be destroyed because of what went on in my personal father's life over and during World War II. I cannot emphasize upon that enough towards what has went on right here locally throughout this neighborhood. People, grown adults, that sat back and was frightened of my father and would not raise a red flag in his behavior to the degree of, well, I was always taught to mind your own business. Or there was others that said, well, we wasn't going to get our teeth knocked down our throat. Frightened of him. Sat back and allowed for children to be abused and taken advantage of. Let's listen to the rest of this. This has become a very, very serious matter. And it's not a laughable matter. It's a very sad, serious matter.
The president is calling Bill Taylor a never-Trumper. Do you have any reason to believe that he has political motivations or to question his credibility?
No, I don't know anything about Bill Taylor that I can say negative.
Senator Lindsey Graham, Trump's top ally on the Hill, says the White House needs a better strategy to push back on this impeachment.
All right, so let's get to Mary Bruce. She's with us live on the Hill again tonight. And Mary, the White House attacking the diplomat who testified in the last 24 hours, Bill Taylor, after that damaging testimony. The White House saying that diplomats who have testified in the impeachment inquiry are radical, unelected bureaucrats, is what they said. But this diplomat, Bill Taylor, was brought on by President Trump's own Secretary of State and has served both Republican and Democratic presidents.
David, Taylor has served in administrations of both parties since 1985. He was George W. Bush's ambassador to the Ukraine, and President Trump's own Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, asked Taylor to return to Ukraine. Now, tonight, we've asked the State Department if Secretary Pompeo agrees with the president's attacks on Taylor, but David, they have not responded.
All right, no comment on that front, Mary. Thank you. The other major story, millions bracing for extremes tonight, the escalating fire danger in the West and the storm in the middle of the country, winter warnings and the cold then coming to the east. But first in California, the extremely critical fire danger there, this wildfire we reported on in Pacific Palisades. And look at this, infrared video showing hotspots still glowing tonight. And this evening, Santa Ana winds are now roaring back. Utility companies could cut power to 500,000 customers yet again. We have the track, the heat, the cold, and ABC's Will Reeve from California tonight.
I want to weigh in on this particular subject. I just got through talking to my niece today. I called her up twice and talked to her. She lives up in the Sacramento area, just southeast in the grape country, to where there's not a whole lot of dead vegetation, which she's blessed by, because it's basically all grape, whatever you call them, that's in that area, Lodi, Stockton, that particular area. But just north of there is where they're receiving all these different harsh events. And basically what we're seeing here is the electric company is having to dismantle their services because the last major fires that they had last year, a bunch of hotshot attorneys got together and sued them for I don't know how many millions and millions and millions of dollars towards saying that they was illegitimate, that they was at fault by not cutting off the services, and whenever the lines would fall and hit the ground, would create more fires. In which theoretically speaking, I'm sure some of that actually happened. That it was done out of gross negligence or ignorance involving their electrical grid system out there in California. But by the electrical power grid outages that they're now doing towards trying to eliminate one problem, now they're creating other problems, such as people being on oxygen and not having proper generators and ventilation systems to accommodate their needs. By shutting off the electricity, now they're creating a different set of problems in trying to cut off more problems. So the situation out there in some of these areas have become dire. Now my niece, fortunately, around all the green vegetation in her particular area, has not experiencing yet major blackouts or outages and even fires. But just north of where she lives, up where her ex-husband lives, up in the mountains, they have received major outages, and to some extent, massive fires have been burning up in some of those hills that have caused devastation in that area. So let's watch this particular sequence, which is another sign that God's Son warned us and told us about, that in the last days that we would see devastation, we would see signs, we would see things in the last days such as we have never ever seen before. And these are only the fulfillment of biblical Bible prophecies coming true that the Lord Jesus Christ predicted over 2,000 years that would in fact occur. Please watch.
Tonight, with multiple fires breaking out in California this week, wide swaths of the state now facing critical fire danger.
Elevations above 1,000 feet, this is where our highest concern is with this fire danger, because this is where the winds will be fastest.
Last year, the deadliest and most destructive fire on record in California devastated the town of Paradise. The utility company PG&E was held responsible for the fire here from sparks from a transmission line like this dead one. Now they're cutting power to thousands of customers across the state, hoping to avoid more fires capable of doing this. Businesses in the town of Sonoma bracing for outages.
And basically was out of business for 4 days when they shut me down last time. So hopefully it's not going to hit us this time.
In Southern California, where the Palisades fire burned 45 acres this week, new infrared video shows it continuing to burn overnight. Hotspots glowing white. This video shot from a car appears to show the fire when it was just starting. Officials now investigating the cause. And David, the wind is expected to pick up here in Northern California tonight. Officials concerned about gusts up to 50 miles per hour. It could be a long night, David.
All right, Will Reed with us tonight. Will, thank you.
Plus, you also got to put this into the equation that possibly the authorities hadn't thought about, that whenever something like this erupts, this actually gives people with corrupt, cruel minds an opportunity towards setting their own place on fire, because maybe they feel like that they got good enough insurance that they would be better off by collecting the insurance and leaving that area and moving to a completely different area. It opens up a vast opportunity for cruel, mean, psychotic individuals that purposely are setting fires just out of meanness. Maybe it's a bunch of gangs in that area that now it seems like this is the perfect opportunity of doing something malicious. We live in a society today like none other society that we have ever lived in before. We live in an era to the point that you can literally almost not trust nobody. Nobody's word is good anymore. Almost everybody will lie to you or cheat on you or tell you something that is full of bull. We're living in a society right now that is crueler, I believe, than the era of before the Civil War, back whenever they was ransacking Indian villages and seeing bloodshed on levels like we've never seen before. We're seeing all kinds, just as of last night, there was a school shooting, I don't know where, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of these school shootings are trying to keep under wraps unless it's just something really, really major. But these events that are occurring are not just occurring in one particular area pertaining to people with undeveloped minds that has allowed for Satan to take over their bodies and do these cruel, unnatural acts. These occurrences are happening all over the world. That once more validates what the Bible teaches towards in the last days, Satan will rise up in great wrath because he can identify and realize that he has lost this challenge, this competition, and his doom, and the angels that followed with him that are no longer considered angels, but are considered evil demonic spirits, that their doom is right around the corner towards the non-existence of their freedom, towards them living the rest of their natural born life in hell, in torment, in a place that even Lucifer himself fears and trembles because it has been designed and manufactured for him and those that followed after him. It is awful in the society that we're living in right now. Unlike any other era that I've ever seen. And I just hope to God that the politicians up there in Washington and up on top of the hill has enough sense to identify what's going on and can learn to control their professionalism towards calming down and trying to take things in proper stride towards being professional politicians.
As we said, along with the fire danger, the winter storm warnings, and the cold coming to the east, meteorologist Rob Marciano, of course, tracking it all for us. Hey, Rob.
Hi, David. Multiple rounds of these winds coming. Unfortunately, the air now just starting to move across Northern California, and we've got a wider range of red flag warnings up. You see it across Northern California, high wind warnings now across Southern California, but as Will mentioned, tonight, tomorrow morning, that's the most dangerous part of NorCal. Tomorrow it switches to Southern California. We could see winds gusting over 60 miles an hour. Extreme fire weather conditions could rival what we saw less than 2 weeks ago. No picnic on Friday and a reinforcing shot on Saturday. All caused by this snowstorm in the Rockies. Denver, a slick commute for you with some snow. 5 to 10 inches in Colorado Springs, getting into the Texas Panhandle with a rain event likely early Friday morning. David?
Rob Marciano tonight. Thank you, Rob. And in Birmingham, Alabama tonight, the sad vigil just before we came on the air for the little girl, the 3-year-old they had been looking for, with prayers from across the nation. The body of Camille McKinney was found more than a week after she was kidnapped from a birthday party while she was playing outside. The police chief tonight there saying he wishes there was more they could have done. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami now.
Some little girl, I think was about 17 or 18, maybe 16, from the Gibson County area, was over in Milan that wound up missing. I found out late yesterday evening that they found her skull over in Milan somewhere. The authorities ain't releasing a whole lot of information about it just yet, but it's an obvious murder that has occurred because the girl's been missing now for several weeks, and we're living in sad times. There is no doubt about it. Sad, sad, sad times.
And they were recovered inside of a landfill.
3-year-old Camille McKinney was last seen alive in this video from a security camera where she's seen playing with another child outside a birthday party Saturday, October 12th. Police say that this man who walks up to the children is a suspect. He walks the children away, and the 3-year-old, known to friends and family as Cupcake, is never seen again.
I really wish there was something more that we could have done.
This blue SUV, seen on surveillance video leaving the scene, led police to these two people. They were arrested on unrelated charges, and tonight the district attorney's office says they expect both will be charged with murder. Police underline that the two people they have in custody are of no connection or relation to the child's family. David?
Steve, thank you. We are learning more tonight after the mysterious death of a high school senior during a visit to an off-campus house at Penn State where it's believed members of a fraternity lived. Tonight, the university temporarily suspending that fraternity while they investigate what happened to this high school senior who was just visiting. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
Mesh and problems our viewers who have had hernia mesh surgery.
Another after another. Tuesday night, the staff at the McCracken County Humane Society treated 41 Chihuahuas, all rescued from this home on Oaks Road in McCracken County.
Felt sorry for them. It's not any way for a domesticated animal to have to live.
Animal Control originally found 44 Chihuahuas at the home, but 3 died, the rest malnourished, flea-infested, and injured. This one has no back feet, likely chewed off by the other dogs.
The alpha dogs probably went for the weakest animal.
Wednesday, Animal Control rescued 7 more dogs from that very house. The new dogs are now being cared for at the McCracken County Humane Society, bringing the total there to 48.
It's heartbreaking to see that somebody would have this many animals and not be able to care for them.
The Humane Society staff has been working extra long hours, and hearing their story, the public is pitching in. The community has been constantly bringing more and more donations to the Humane Society. In fact, at one point, this front lobby was completely filled. What the Humane Society needs most right now are wet canned puppy food like these, because some of the dogs are just a few weeks old.
Did you hear what they said? They said that the older dogs, the stronger dogs, attacked the weaker dog towards chewing off its feet. We are nothing more than animals. What we're seeing right now, as far as the rich, the powerful, they're feeding off of society. And they're illegitimately attacking their citizens in ways that they shouldn't attack them because they themselves are trying to survive. We're talking about corrupt judges. We're talking about corrupt attorneys. We're talking about corrupt politicians that have been put in power for years and years and years, that have obligations towards yachts payments and school payments and secondary house payments, and they've got to make their money some way or another. So what they do, they feed off of the weak. They feed off of those who isn't either smart enough or strong enough to hire good legal counsel, that wind up tainting their reputation the rest of their lives. We're dealing in something today that is more destructive than what it was back years ago, because they keep a paper trail on people today that they didn't back years ago. Back years ago, if you did wind up illegitimately being charged, or even if you did make a mistake in society towards doing something that you shouldn't have done, you could always move down the road 3 or 4 counties or go over the state line and start your life all over again. And start afresh, make amends, become reformed, and become a good, productive citizen to society. Well, you can't do that today. You can't outrun the computer, because now the computer keeps up with everybody. Everybody's boo-boos. That's never forgotten. It's ingrained into the database to the point that now anybody can look up that person's identity and find out, oh yeah, they was charged for jaywalking and indecent exposure back in 1972, whenever they was nooking at the lake somewhere with their girlfriend or their boyfriend. It keeps a chart of our mistakes. And these mistakes are never forgotten. And that is not what our ancestors intended for our system to be like. The founders, the builders of this great nation, did not intend for the legal services to act this way to the degree that now, whatever that you done, whenever you was a teenager or shortly after you was a teenager, will haunt you the rest of your entire life. Talk about double jeopardy. Not only do you get punished for your mistake, but now you get punished by society, because society will keep your feet to the fire and never give you a second chance. In other words, the system is feeding up onto itself, kind of like the powerful feeding up onto the weak. That's what we have going on right now, folks. And it's going on right here in the USA. And if we're not smart enough to identify what's happening, we as a society, as a nation, may very well be looking at our Achilles heel towards us being $23 trillion in debt and all these problems that have vastly come before all of us because certain people kept the system on automatic pilot. It was on cruise control. And now all of a sudden, everybody's paying attention to everybody's mistakes, and it's even creating that much more chaotic, toxic environment. If there's ever been a time that we needed to pray, and it talks about this in the first 4 chapters of Revelations, for I, that's God speaking, for I will not put upon to thee none other burden. Hold fast till I come. Hold fast till I come. That's God speaking to not only the churches back then, but speaking to the saints and to the churches today. Because there's too many people that's being pushed to the side. There's too many people that's falling through the cracks. There's too many people that's being a victim of the powerful eating on the weak. And I hate to use this type of analogy towards what I'm talking about, but it's the truth. It's kind of like the big fish in the oceans survive off the little fish. And those littler fish survive off of the fish that's even littler than those fish. It's called the ecosystem. Birds eat bugs. Big bugs eat little bugs. There's other things out there that eat the birds. It's an ecosystem. And if we don't watch, we're going to get caught up in this to the point that it will be destructive to our nation's survival. And please, I know that our ancestors did not intend for this to occur this way. Good luck to all of us. Once more, I hate to use the analogy of these dogs towards the strong ones, the powerful ones eating on the little ones, towards eating a feed off of that little dog. It's an unhumane thing to see, but the fact of the matter is, I think by using this type of analogy, maybe there's someone out there that can comprehend what I'm talking about in reference to the human animal kingdom basically doing the exact same thing. Shalom.